Hello, I hope you're well. I read somewhere that people treat us the way we have trained them to treat us. And that really struck a chord with me. It felt like someone was finally naming a pattern I've lived with for too long. But sometimes it feels worse, like I'm walking around with a neon sign on my head that somehow invites people to be abusive towards me. Is that really the same thing, or is it something else? Thanks for taking the time to consider my question. Okay, if if you come across that idea that people treat us the way we've trained them to treat us, that can really burn when you first get it, particularly, whether people you've been around for a bit, friends, loved ones, family, partners. When we're having a really we're sort of feeling the hurt and like, why are they doing this? And why don't they see me? Or why are they always talking over me? Or why do they ignore me? Or why, all that stuff. And to kind of go, well, they're doing that because I've trained them to do that. Now, it hurts to kind of go, and initially there's probably a bit of, no, I didn't. But when you step back from it, we kind of do that. And then once you see that, then you have to begin the process of owning it and then retraining and setting boundaries, God forbid, and saying either absenting yourself or going, yeah, that's not okay, or I prefer not. Okay, I prefer that didn't happen. So that process is to go on, and that's not an easy process. Having a neon sign on your head, well, it depends. It depends on, like, I have found that people who are traumatized, particularly when they're traumatized when they're young, it can set up, it sort of breaks something in them. And it can create a kind of energetic frequency in their system that brings in more of the same thing, which is a terrible thing, because then they repeat the trauma, and it's nothing to do with what they're doing. They're like, why does this always happen to me? Why am I the one that gets picked out? Why am I the one, in a room full of 100 people, the predator will pick me? And I think it's terrible, but at least knowing about it helps, because then you can focus whatever support you're getting on helping that to fix itself and to heal itself. So if you're going to a therapist, you can kind of focus on that to kind of help to undo that energetic opening in your system. So it can be that, which is different to training people, I think. Training people is just something that happens over time, and we abandon ourselves, or we don't set boundaries, or if we do set boundaries, we don't keep them, or we just think, oh, well, if I love this person enough, they will suddenly start doing all the things I want them to do towards me, and if the person is not doing it, then we're like, well, why aren't they doing it back? And it's like, well, you've kind of trained them to ignore you, in a way, which is different to this kind of open wound or open kind of vulnerability in your system from trauma. They're two different kind of things. And you can kind of see in terms of patterns, there is a bit of crossover. I can see how it could be confusing. To me, they're different. But if you look at the patterns and the themes in your life, for example, the little boy who's bullied by his older brother, then gets bullied in school, then gets bullied in work, then gets bullied at home. There's a pattern there of like something is fundamentally, there's a wound in that person's system that keeps attracting bullies until they can get the wounds closed, and then they don't attract bullies anymore. I've seen that happen quite a good few times with people that I've worked with anyway. So they're similar, but they're not the same, as far as I can see.